Hello and welcome to this episode of Cassiati News. I am your host, Nick, and this is your platform to break up with traditional media and get four political parties and their opinions. This is our second topic today. If you haven't seen the first one, it is linked right up above. Joe, Democrats and Republicans argue that they are both each other fascists, Nazis, or even worse. According to Wikipedia, which I'm sure not a lot of people have done, but according to Wikipedia, fascism is a form of far-right, authoritarian, ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimented societies and the economy, which came to prominence in the early 20th century. Joe, both sides of the aisle are pointing fingers at each other. Ultimately, most Americans just want freedom. Is the idea of a free America going away, Joe?
The idea of a free America hasn't existed since the 1920s. Reason why is because neither the Republicans nor the Democrats are able to really call each other fascist because they have been the cornerstones, probably one of the most fascist nations on earth. We step back and we take a look at what happened in the 1920s with regards to nationalism, what happened with the indigenous people across the United States, violations of the rights of, minorities. So we even move forward. Joe Biden is one of the most notorious segregationists in the United States right now, and we just elected him president. Donald Trump continues to support the exploitation of immigrants in several different locations for his. So when we step back and we say, you're a Nazi, you're a Nazi, you're a Nazi, it doesn't mean anything. Because if we look at the American economy, government and industry stronger together, we are the epitome of the fascist nation that Mussolini modeled his economy after for World War II. We take a look at Nazi Germany and we understand that they based their racial segregation, their policies, on our own policies here in America, the Trail of Tears, the one drop aspects in Southern America. The word doesn't mean anything because it applies to everybody in every capacity in the United States right now. So we need to step back and admit that before we can even move forward.
Keith, we're looking at a lot of these labels, and a lot of Americans feel like they're losing their freedoms with these particular labels, whether the Democrats are calling the Republicans fascists, even calling them Nazis. I mean, at the root of the word Nazi, National Socialist. I mean, how can we struggle to find the difference between National Socialist and Democratic Socialist? I mean, the root word is the same thing. So you're calling people the same thing that you already are. It's just really hard to understand. That being said, we're just talking about freedom. We're talking about seeing a company silence the United States president. Are we free? Are we all fascists? Are we all living under the same regime? I mean, what is your make of it?
Whoever's running the simulations on the final season. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, the word freedom gets bandied about a lot, but there's two sides to that freedom coin. Is the freedom to and the freedom from. So Donald Trump has the freedom to spout his tweets. I'll leave it at that. And we should have the freedom from being bombarded daily by nonsense. There's a freedom to and the freedom from in everything. I mean, throw out an issue, and I mean, you come home late at night, you want to have a drunken party in your backyard. That's your freedom. Your neighbors have a freedom from being kept awake until 3 a.m. by a bunch of drunken idiots. So normally when people are talking about the loss of freedom, they're talking about the loss of freedom to do something. I'm more concerned in a slightly more nuanced view of freedom, in which what are we getting in return for your loss of freedom to do something? So if your loss of freedom, for example, to own a semi-automatic rifle of a certain caliber or higher, what are we buying for that? Is the ROI there? A lot of the stuff that we lose freedoms to do things on. The ROI is not there, but I'm not willing to say blanket that we're becoming less free, because it's just a very complicated topic. I'd want to go into specifics.
I mean, if I had Don Lemon here, or if I had Tucker Carlson, Keith, Richard would be labeled a Nazi or a fascist from one side. The other side would label you the same thing, right? So it goes again back to that hyperpolarization. But how are we free to give each other those labels? How are we free to deplatform somebody? I keep hearing the argument that Twitter can deplatform whoever they want, regardless of the freedom of speech, is what we understand. A business can do whatever they want. Well, then the libertarian Angela would say, well, if a business can do whatever they want, then screw your government-mandated lockdown. I'm free to do whatever I want. I'm going to open up my hair salon, is her argument back, right? So, where does freedom and fascism come into play?
Well, these labels that people are throwing around, I agree, they're meaningless at this point, because they have been used to the point that they're now meaningless. So who's a Nazi? You're a Nazi. I don't know. You are a Nazi. No, you are. And it just evolves so quickly. And it's the minute you call somebody a name, their brain shuts down, because you're not engaging them, you're attacking them. And when people are attacked, they defend. And a lot of times they'll immediately counterattack. Now you're both attacking, you're both defending. Nobody's open-minded, nobody's listening anymore, and both think that the other guy is the reason that the things have devolved. So no, I don't agree with calling people Nazis unless they're actually subscribing to Nazism. It gets stupid, it's counterproductive, it makes enemies out of friends. Fascism, the thing is, you want to call fascism far right, fine, whatever. But the terms left and right, I think they've stopped applying in the ways that we're used to them applying, because both parties have largely abandoned the populace, if that makes sense. The Democrats used to stand up for the little guy, all those people who voted for Obama and then voted for Trump. Again, not really Nazis. They voted for a black guy twice. I don't know of a neo-Nazi group that would allow you to stay in it if you did that. But who's censoring who? The left is censoring a lot of people. I have no reason to believe that the right would not start censoring people if it was advantageous to what they were trying to accomplish. I just don't think it's a left-right spectrum anymore. I think those are outdated terms, and we're all, and in the old military adage, the generals are always fighting the last war. I think that's what we're doing. We're all looking backwards. Things are a lot muddier now. Who's the free speech advocate? Sproul Plaza, Berkeley, right? Wrong. No, they're the last thing that they're interested in up there is free speech, and I say that's my alma mater. I'm not impressed, but. Again, I think it would flip if the right wing decided that it was advantageous to them. They would not be entirely in charge of in favor of free speech.
Richard, you're a Republican. Are you in favor of free speech? Would you be in favor of censoring people? As to Keith's point, I mean, the media is saying that Donald Trump has been a dictator, a fascist, a Nazi. In the definition of fascism, suppressing opposition. Did Donald Trump do that?
I mean, I just want to say, Keith, I really agree with a lot of the points that you made. This really isn't a left-right spectrum anymore. And as far as fascism being suppressing opposition, that's so broad of a term. I wouldn't label that. I think something that's more unique to fascism would be maybe kind of coercing the corporate state, and that's why I don't want to call it fascism. I think what we're seeing right now is really the beginning of corporate America really influencing their strengths on how they can influence our country and our government, which is extremely concerning. And I just want to say something with Joe. It's really sad to hear somebody say that we are the epitome of fascism. To me, it's spoken true of the person who maybe has no curiosity of the world or history. It's beyond amazing to me. Like, to think that maybe Saudi Arabia would be less fascist or China would be less fascist. Why would the number one destination of migrants or people immigrating to one country or another be the United States? Well, apparently all of the world wants to come to a fascist state, right? I mean, it's really sad, and that's kind of part of the problem, I think, with these terms. They're used as a pejorative, but there are real meanings, like kind of what Keith was saying. They've lost all the meaning, though. We're going to have to find a new word for the word fascism, because apparently we're living in Mussolini's time, which is really sad to hear, honestly. I think what we're seeing, though, is the corporate America really flexing its muscle and showing what they can do as far as influencing our government.
Well, to your point, right? So you said that we're the number one most immigrated country in the world. Well, in the past week, we've seen the number of applications for citizenship plummet. It's at record lows for applications of citizenship. Are we?
Well, I'm sure if we take those numbers, I'm sure we'll still be number one. It's not even a question. We are the number one destination of anybody who wants to leave their own country. It's not even a debate. But why is that, though? Why do so many people want to come to a fascist state? We're not a fascist state. We're not going to be a fascist state. Our system, this is an amazing country with so much opportunity here. We have a lot of tension going on right now, but to say that we're some kind of a totalitarian dictatorship that is it's some kind of a militaristic totalitarian regime that's going on right now is just beyond laughable. And frankly, I think it's not only ignorant but also dangerous to say these kind of things. I don't personally appreciate it.
Angela, the commenters are going to say that I teed you up for a softball here. They're going to say, well, we've pitted 3 against 1 where Angela can knock it out of the park, and you're going to just say personal freedoms are going to win. The libertarians aren't in power. They're not there. Most of these companies aren't run by libertarians. Most of these companies have donated generously to the Republicans and the Democrats to get whatever their lobbyists are lobbying for. I think that this is a very hard fight for the libertarians to even win, to even be in, right? So the problem is that we're seeing both sides point fascism and Nazism at each other. If somebody's watching this, are they okay with these fingers being pointed at each other all the time?
No one wants to be called a Nazi. That's probably like the worst thing that you can be called if you take it seriously. No one wants to be called a Nazi, and people aren't okay with throwing that sort of language around when it's lobbed at them. Plenty of people are happy to do it. I don't think that we're in a fascist country, but we certainly have some fascist elements in our government. I think what's unfortunate is everyone is calling each other fascist, but failing to see what sort of fascist policies are implemented by the government and how that's actually the thing that's harming them. It's not someone that you disagree with on Facebook or Twitter or even TikTok. To the right, Donald Trump tried to ban TikTok, and I'm sure he made some arguments about China, but people saw that as censorship and they were rightfully angry. And now he's been kicked off of almost every major social media platform that exists, and people are angry about that. And all of a sudden we have progressives saying, oh, look, it's like libertarianism, the free market provides. But they don't agree with libertarianism about any other point when it comes to corporations. I don't see people shilling to get rid of the minimum wage or abolish regulatory practices. Maybe we should just have nuance to the discussion. We shouldn't call each other fascists. We can acknowledge, okay, there's a free market principle at play. Twitter has a right to get rid of whoever they want. It's their company. But maybe it's a bad idea. Maybe it's not good for us culturally to censor each other. Maybe it's also not good for us culturally to call each other Nazis.
There was national security risks in both the arguments, right? National security risk of Donald Trump allegedly attempting a coup. A national security risk of China gathering hundreds of millions of users' data. Everything that you put into your phone, there was ways that they could search all of your keystrokes for passwords to whatever you're logging into. I mean, both sides of it, I can understand where they make the argument that the government should come in and protect each other. I can see that argument. How do you say to somebody that getting access to your phone and your banking and stuff like that, or how can you say that storming the Capitol is a freedom of speech idea? I mean, how can you say that?
Well, the NSA already has access to anything and everything that we do. They have backdoors to everything. So if we're concerned about, governments taking a peek at whatever we're doing, that already happens. And I'm sure it happens with people in other countries too. Everybody always screams about Russian hacking. So from the progressive point of view, that's already happening. And from the conservative point of view, it's China doing it. Okay, so now everyone is spying on everyone. There is no easy solution to that. I don't recall ever saying that literally storming the Capitol was a free speech right, but I do strongly believe that protesting at the Capitol is a free speech right, and I want to see everyone doing it. And I think that it's a really good idea. Instead of lobbing insults and rage at each other, I'm not taxing anyone to death, right? I'm not tampering in your election. Go take your grievances to the government, whether it's the federal government, the state government, the county, the city. That's who you should be complaining to. And I applaud the people that are willing to do that. Maybe, don't break windows and threaten to murder people, though. Let's dial it down.
Joe, I see you over there smirking. You're twiddling your thumbs. Go ahead and respond.
Okay. One of the reasons why we're the most desired destination in the world right now is there's only one place safe from American policy, or at least there used to be until recently, and that's inside the U.S. borders. Now, we've seen a reversal of that here in the last couple of weeks, which is dangerous for a couple of reasons. We're looking at a Congress that's attempting to repeal Section 230. Now, the truth is we've been censoring speech across the United States. The Decency and Communications Act initially censored people. You're no longer able to advertise your wares as a sex worker across the United States because it was associated with sex trafficking. Okay, that was our first step at censorship. Okay. Now they're in the process of trying to remove that safety net from other platforms which currently exist through the 230 with Google. That stuff exists. We need to prosecute the violators of the law rather than eliminate the platforms. Now, one of the other things we look at is Facebook. A number of these other platforms have become the center square, the city square where we go to air our grievances, where we go to talk. Now, the truth is each one of these platforms represents an old individual bar where we'd all get together and sit down and talk. It wasn't the square. It wasn't a common speech area. We don't have the equivalent of an electronic square right now because it's been created in the private network. We've been doing it in the bars. We've been doing it in the clubs. We haven't gone out into, Facebook.gov where we can actually have that free speech where I see Angela. Right? Do you understand the complication with that, though? Facebook.gov. What does that really represent from a free speech?
Yeah, but
It'll
Joe,
be a
at
protected 1A.
But yeah, true. You'd have protected 1A. But Joe, to your point, right? So, the other side of the coin is going to say, well, they have terms of service. We can deplatform you. Well, what if in California, every bar in the front of their bar put a sign, terms of service? Wouldn't they just be able then to allow whoever they want to come in and enjoy whatever they want based on their terms of service? I mean, that's another argument, right? So if you're going to say, hey, Donald Trump didn't follow our terms of service, throw the argument right back. I mean, how right? So who wins in this scenario? It sounds like the American people are losing all the way around.
I see Angela over there contemplating exactly what that means because honestly, we do have terms of service for every bar in the United States. We walk in and we understand. We see the crowd when we walk in. You don't show up in leather gear at a country western bar without getting strange looks. You don't walk into the Blue Oyster,
yeah, but I mean, so
a cowboy hat
Yeah, but I mean, to go back to the fascism and the censorship and the lockdown and all of this, right? It kind of all ties back into each other.
Yes.
Our Disney over here, our Disney World versus California. When you walk in, there's a big giant sign: you can get COVID, and this is you're entering at your own risk, and blah 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 blah. All these terms of service that are literally there that we have to abide by to get in. I mean, couldn't every location in the United States do that and just fully open right back up immediately?
Should be able to, yes. And that's one of the reasons why we need to decentralize. Right now, the blanket policies out of the central government continue to infringe on local rights, individual rights, personal rights, the communities across the United States. Freedom Georgia right now has created a segregated area for healing purposes. The idea of covenant communities across the United States. Yeah, Angela. Northern Idaho, we had a Nazi compound up here 20 years ago. This is not a new thing. It's not something that's even been outlawed, frowned upon heavily, but it is still a thing. It still exists. You want your terms of service for your community, nobody's stopping you.
Richard, I'm going to give you the last. I've got 2 minutes. A minute for you, then a minute for Keith. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say I completely agree with what Joel was saying. I think the censorship that's been going on is extremely dangerous. And all it's really doing is just continue this divide that we have. And like what Keith was saying earlier, we agree on probably about 80% of all of our topics, but you have to shut out half of the people from a conversation. Why am I pushed to 4chan is my question. Why are all my subreddits shut down? Why are my YouTube channels shut down? It's getting to a point where when you start funneling people into one group, it becomes easier, kind of what Andrew was saying earlier, of dehumanizing people and creating that other. So I think this is really a matter of let's check these major corporations and make sure that they're not over-exercising their power. At the same time, I think eventually that there will be other options coming out very soon because they're tired of it. Nobody wants to live in an echo chamber. I think people really enjoy seeing a diversity of thought, different opinions, and arguing a little bit. So I think, or at least I really hope that we're going to see new platforms popping up that are more decentralized, like what Joe was saying.
Keith, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of Republicans, 75 million of them, 74, whatever you want to say, million Republicans. They're really afraid of this type of censorship and the pointing and all of this stuff. As a Democrat, what do you say to them?
Right now, honestly, it's all about triggers and thresholds. That's what it's always been about. So I shouldn't have qualified that with right now. We all agree that there's some stuff you cannot say, you cannot do. There's some stuff that you should never be questioned about saying or doing because it's pretty benign. And we're arguing over where that is. Where's that line? It's in the middle somewhere. Right now, I think we've overcorrected. There's a censorious streak on the far left, and they have kind of captured a lot of corporations, and you see a lot of kowtowing in mainstream corporate America to it as well. I don't know how long this is going to last. I know that if you, for example, I'll take the rioting in the Capitol. We can't lump everybody, 70 plus million people into the same group as some people who really, that does fit the definition of a coup, an attempted coup. Look up the definition of an attempted coup, and it fits. 70 plus million, we cannot lump them all in that. Or what we're doing is we are cornering them. You're giving them no other place to go than to turn around and embrace the people that they do not necessarily want to be even associated with. There are extremists on my side. I don't want to be associated with them, and I have no reason to believe Richard's going to want to be associated with somebody who's running at a cop, in the Capitol trying to punch him or something. No. Give people a way out. This is straight out of Sun Tzu, by the way. You put your enemy, you put their back to the wall and give them no way to escape. They will fight until they are dead. We do not want that. We do not want this. It benefits nobody. So yeah, I can understand them being scared. I think Trump should have been banned from Twitter when he threatened North Korea with nukes. That to me, I'm like, come on, exactly how bad your terms of service need to be violated. I know this guy's the president, but then again, I think everybody should be banned from Twitter. I think if you tasked me today with disrupting a foreign nation with very little money and very little blowback, I would be hard pressed to do worse to a country than give it Twitter. Like this is a horrible platform. But that might be digressing. But yeah, I was not, despite my feelings toward Trump, I was not in favor of getting rid of Parler. If people are breaking the law on Parler, then go after the people who are breaking the law on Parler and prosecute them for breaking the law on Parler. Do not take down refuge after refuge for entire groups of millions of people, because now you're becoming what they're saying you are. Just like the rioters in the Capitol became what they always said Antifa and BLM were. They became the monster that they thought that they hated. So
great words.
We all have to look for that.
Great words. I really appreciate all of our guests. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button, share us on social media, hit that like, comment and below, respond to all of their debates, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.